Good morning. Today is Wednesday, April 9th. This is Wake Up with KERA News, and I'm Andrew Garcia. It's a lovely Wednesday morning in North Texas, and it's expected to stay that way today and tomorrow as well. There may be some wind gusts, though. Temperatures will reach into the low 80s for today. This year's Dallas Art Fair is about more than buying and selling. We'll learn more about the fair amid a year of political pressure, budget cuts, and cultural unrest after the news. A Texas startup wants school districts to use its drones to improve campus safety. The founders of Austin-based Campus Guardian Angel pitched the idea to lawmakers during a Senate Education Committee meeting last week. CEO Justin Marston said the remote-operated drones can help identify an armed school intruder safely and from a distance. Marston said the drones can launch pepper spray and hit an intruder if necessary. A district near San Antonio is partnering with Campus Guardian Angel, and the company held a demo on Monday night at Highland Park ISD. Fort Worth Animal Care and Control took the first step to continue normal operations after temporarily closing 2 animal shelters. A viral outbreak of deadly canine disease at the end of March forced the closures. Shelter staff have now resumed releasing dogs to the city's animal rescue partners. The Dallas Art Fair arrives amid political pressure, budget cuts, and cultural unrest. KERA's Elizabeth Mayong talks with Justin Martin about how artists are responding.
So, Elizabeth, there's a lot going on outside the fair this year. Is any of that actually showing up inside the fair? Like, does it feel different?
We are hearing from a lot of gallerists and artists that there is, of course, a lot going on, as you mentioned, and it is kind of shaping the way they're thinking about things. They can't help but kind of bring those personal experiences into the art fair, and there's a myriad of different emotions and experiences that they're having, and yeah, it's on people's minds.
So some of the gallerists you talk to are really leaning into their political work. Others are kind of backing away from it. Did anyone say why they're choosing one path over the other?
I think it really depends on each person, their perspective. For example, I spoke to artist Evita Tizano, and she's taken a very different approach. And she said, hey, there are political artists, and I don't have to be one of those. Instead, she wants to be what she calls a positive art evangelist. For her, it very much sounds like a personal decision based on what she's passionate about and wants to do art about.
The Dallas Art Fair hasn't always had the most inclusive reputation. Do you get the sense things are truly shifting this year, or is it still surface level?
That's a big question, and I think a question that I would kind of turn back to you and anybody who's attending the art fair this year. It's really for the viewers and community to decide and have a conversation about. On one hand, the art fair has tried to make some changes. This year, they're going to do 2 walkthroughs to highlight work by artists from the African diaspora and those who are represented by Black-owned galleries and LGBTQ artists. And last year, they did invite their first Black-owned gallery, Pencil and Paper, which we did a story about. But of course, some people feel, why now? And that perhaps it is kind of late in the game to be doing all of this. But there are efforts, and so there's that back and forth conversation to be had.
This is still a big money art fair. Booths cost a ton, and people are trying to sell. How are folks balancing that with, trying to actually say something with their work?
When I talked to some of the gallerists this year, like Bart Kaisers-Koenig, he talked about the political ramifications of what he's doing and maybe his presentation of the artwork, but he didn't want to shy away from artwork that might create ripples. The gallerist Luis de Jesus, who's from LA, talked about the fact that realistically, you have 1 to 2 minutes to talk to each person who walks into your booth. And then, you don't want to spend that time just talking about the world and politics. You're talking about the art, you're talking about the artists, and that's kind of their approach to things. So it's balancing those 2 things.
For folks who aren't planning on going or who may have never been to an art fair, why should they care about what's happening at the Dallas Art Fair this year?
That's a great question, and I'm going to bring up a movie scene that might seem tangential. But basically, in The Devil Wears Prada, there's this scene where Miranda Priestley and Andy, her assistant, are kind of having this heated back and forth. And Andy's like, "Why do you care about the color of this belt? It's just blue." And Miranda Priestley basically says,
That blue represents millions of dollars and countless jobs.
and I think I would say the same thing about the Dallas Art Fair. It kind of determines what we view as art and culture, what is challenging the bounds of that and what isn't. And I think there are also a lot of interesting conversations to be had and emerging and up and coming artists who would be interesting to follow. For example, like Eli Ruhala, who's a TCU graduate, who's going to be represented by Kaisers Koenig this year at the Dallas Art Fair.
That was KERA's Elizabeth Mayong speaking with host Justin Martin. The Stars lost a barn burner against the Canucks last night in overtime, a wild game that saw 11 total goals, 7 of them coming in the third period alone. And grab your popcorn, dust off your Luka jersey. It's the moment we've all been waiting months for, Mavericks versus Lakers, tonight at the American Airlines Center. Tip-off is at 6:30. Head to the Dwell and Dignity Thrift Studio pop-up to admire and even purchase high-end designer pieces at a discount. For more information and some other fun things to do, visit kera.org/calendar. Thank you so much for listening to Wake Up with KERA News. I'm your host, Andrew Garcia. This show is produced and edited by Shardae White and Bekah Morr. For more news in your inbox, visit kera.org/wakeup. That's where you can subscribe to the Wake Up with KERA News newsletter and get some good morning vibes from our colleague Catherine Hobbs. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We're at KERATX. Tell us how you're feeling about Luka's pending return to Dallas. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow.